I'm going in. I'm pushing all the chips to the center of the table. Give me Framber Valdez. I read that he's looking for a 7-year deal. The Orioles reportedly were only willing to get him up to 5. I think that he's the missing piece to get the Orioles over the hump. And I don't think that any of these other guys that we've mentioned is going to move the needle like a Framber Valdez would.
Not saying you're wrong. I mean, this whole him throwing the baseball at his catcher thing, I
That
think
was a
it's
bad
got me
look.
a little sore. Okay. But I got to tell you, Zac Gallen, I would probably take him for some reason. He's got that bulldog mentality. But again, I'm going to get back to this. If I had a choice between anybody out there, I would do a trade for Freddy Peralta. Are you ready for the good, the bad, and the ugly? Joe Rossano's Orioles report with Matt Faulkner is next. Welcome to Joe Rossano's Orioles Report with Matt Faulkner, where we give you the good, the bad, and the ugly. If it's good, we'll say it. If it's bad, we'll say it. If it's ugly, we'll say it. Matt Faulkner, what do you got for us today, sir?
Joe Rossano, how are you, my brother?
If I were any better, I wouldn't be able to live with myself.
Hey, I love it. I love it. So, not sure if you've seen the article. I came across it over the weekend. Ken Rosenthal talking about the Orioles potentially having interest in free agent pitcher Justin Verlander. Might I add, 42-year-old, soon to be 43-year-old Justin Verlander. So my question to you, if the Orioles choose to pass on Framber Valdez, they pass on possibly signing Zac Gallen, making a trade for a guy like Freddy Peralta, and Justin Verlander is the only pitcher that they add to that rotation. Will you love it, like it, or do you just flat out hate it?
Like it for this reason. Okay. Would have loved it. Would have loved it if, Gallen and Framber Valdez was still in the mix, or that my preferable was to trade for Freddy Peralta. I think of the three you just mentioned, he's the best of the three. Now, let's talk about Justin Verlander, 42 years old, almost 43, really old for baseball, but I have a pair of Vans his age. Okay. And I will say this once again, and I always got to get back to this, is the postseason experience. Don't sleep on Justin Verlander. He was phenomenal. And then he had a bit of a lull, and then phenomenal again. I mean, what do you need out of him except veteran lead? The guys in the clubhouse, especially the pitchers, they're going to love Justin Verlander. Yes, I say if you can get Justin Verlander, especially affordable, 100%. I don't care if you get Framber Valdez and Zac Gallen and Freddy Peralta. You get all three of them. Let's pretend that happens. I still say get Justin Verlander because, again, you got the Gunnar Hendersons and the Adley Rutschmans, etc. And these guys don't have a lot of postseason experience. And you bring in Justin Verlander and boom, got his immediate street cred. So I'm going to go with like on this one. Tell me where I'm going wrong here, Matt Faulkner.
I mean, I'll be honest, on the surface, I hated just the thought of it because, again, what happens as pitchers get older? You get into, your 40s, those minor injuries that you might be able to recover from at, 25 or 30, they might add up to an IL stint. And it's like, to me, I would have liked this move a lot more had they not signed Zach Eflin prior to this. So to me, like, it's either one or the other. I don't really understand how you make a case for both. Looking at last year's contract, Verlander was given a 1-year deal for $15 million. And the numbers actually are better than I kind of had thought they were. I mean, I think you look at the post All-Star break, he had a 2.99 ERA through 150 innings, and that was with missing a month due to a pec injury. 4 wins, 11 losses. San Francisco was pretty mediocre last year. They were like the right in the wild card hunt. I think they finished 2 games back of the Reds. But he did have a 3.85 ERA, which is pretty solid. He's not gonna, I don't think, be expected if he were to be brought in. I don't think they would put him in the top 2 or 3, but I think you could do certainly a lot worse as far as the back end of a rotation option. And as you mentioned, that playoff experience, I don't think you can overstate the importance of it. It's a young group. in that rotation, not a lot of postseason experience. And so, I'm kind of a little bit more like it than hate it. I still would be disappointed if that was their only move. I still think that would not give them enough to get over the hump in the AL East. But obviously, you could still do a lot worse with a rotation that includes Justin Verlander. My next
Okay, here we
question.
go. No, I'm sorry. Just quickly back
Oh,
to Justin
yeah.
Verlander. As you said, 3.85 ERA. Okay. Other than Kyle Bradish, who came back and pitched a few games, he had a better ERA than anybody else on the Orioles. 3.85. I will take 3.85 from all six starters across the entire season. I'll take it. And I will have to say this, Charlie Morton, 2 words, Charlie Morton. He got 15 million. And I'll tell you, Justin Verlander, 4-11, 3.85, 137 strikeouts. Yeah, I mean, I gotta tell you, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. Back to you, Matt Faulkner. You were saying now go. Number 2.
Yeah. So the issue that I think the Orioles are going to have, with this rotation is what do you do with some of those guys that were in the rotation last year due to injury, due to just other guys not performing well? A guy like Cade Povich, okay, is one that comes to mind. Okay. So if you bring Verlander in, okay, now you've added another arm to that rotational mix, right? I can't imagine them going to a 6-man rotation. I can't. So you have 5 spots. We've mentioned Kyle Bradish. We've mentioned Trevor Rogers, right? We've mentioned Shane Baz. I mean, to me, those are 3 lots, barring some kind of injury to hopefully knock on wood that does not occur. So essentially, you've got 2 spots at the back end of that rotation, and you're going to have minimally 4 or 5 guys. And I want to know what your thoughts are with Cade Povich in terms of if he does not make the opening day rotation, what do you think the Orioles should do with him? Do they send him back to AAA, or do you think they should trade him? Should they put him in the bullpen? What do you think?
Hey, so you hit a real soft spot for me here. I love Cade Povich. I don't know why. I just do. Sometimes you can't put a price tag. Well, you can always put a price tag on something on strikeouts per 9 innings, and he strikes out about a batter an inning. Okay, he can reach 95, and we've all seen the curveball and the kick change. Um, I do think you're probably going to see. Now, I want you to remember you heard this here, a 6-man rotation, because the first 3, as you said, with Rogers, Bradish, and Boz. No, Eflin is in that rotation as a number 3, number 4. He's in. And what do you say to Dean Kramer? ERA just above 4. If you look at his numbers, his ERA, his numbers are the same every single year. He's the most consistent guy I've ever seen in my life. He's 4.1, 4.1, 4.1, 4.1 every single season. He is in that rotation. So the rotation, we do have 5 starters. So adding anybody, and that's anybody, and that'd be Freddy Peralta, Framber Valdez, Zac Gallen, Justin Verlander, any of the 4, okay? There, you got no other choice but a 6-person rotation, a 6-man rotation. And you can't have enough starting pitching depth. I mean, look what happened last year. I mean, every time he turned around, somebody was hurt. Cade
I don't want
Povich
to.
had to
I don't want to.
pitch.
I don't
Suarez
want to
had to
relive.
pitch. So,
Yeah, I don't want to relive last season. I tried my best to try
no.
to forget some, especially early on when it was like everybody was seemingly was getting hurt left and right. You turn a game on and somebody's getting pulled in the 4th inning due to some kind of injury on the bases or a swing that they took. So I try to forget a lot of that stuff from last year. My issue
I
with my
can't say I
issue with
blame you.
Kramer, my issue with Kramer, and I'm not going to knock the innings because there's something to be said for a guy that's going to come out and throw close to
Yeah.
200 innings and give you 5, 6 innings just about every time out. Is I just think there were just the inconsistencies of just you knew you were going to get a good start from him, and then the next time out, it was like he couldn't get out of the 3rd inning because he couldn't get an out. And I just, I think that he's a good option 4-5, but I think you could do a lot better for a team that especially plays in the AL East. I don't know that I would necessarily love him as a 4 guy. I think maybe he's a good number 5. He's a good guy to have in the rotation, but I'm going to hold the phones on some of the expectations with him. My issue with the rotation is there's a lot of questions that we have with for example, Trevor Rogers. Are you buying the performance that we did get out of him last season? Is that something that is repeatable? Because you look at some of the
Nope.
analytics and some of those guys, and they talk about while he did have a good year, there was a lot of fortune with hard hit rates and all the analytical stats that we could throw out that says that that year that he had last year was a little bit of a blip, and he's going to come back to earth. I again, when I look at this rotation, they still need a top of the rotation arm. I'm going in, I'm pushing all the chips to the center of the table. Give me Framber Valdez. I read that he's looking for a 7-year deal. The Orioles reportedly were only willing to give him up to 5. I think that he's the missing piece to get the Orioles over the hump. And I don't think that any of these other guys that we've mentioned is going to move the needle like the Framber Valdez would.
Not saying you're wrong. I mean, this whole him throwing the baseball at his catcher thing, I
That
think
was a
it's
bad
got me
look.
a little sore. Okay, but I got to tell you, Zac Gallen, I would probably take him for some reason. He's got that bulldog mentality. But again, I'm going to get back to this. If I had a choice between anybody out there, I would do a trade for Freddy Peralta. Now, speaking of, and this is my opinion, when you if you do a trade for Freddy Peralta, they are going to want some major league ready talent back. Okay. And I think Cade Povich is gone. I think he is one of the pieces that gets moved if the Freddy Peralta trade comes into fruition, or I think Dean Kramer is probably also going to be not also, but either Cade Povich or Dean Kramer are going to be traded for Freddie Peralta again if that deal does happen. And I think it's the Kobe Mayos and Ryan Mountcastle. I mean, they're probably going to get 3-4 guys for Freddie Peralta. But, at the end of the day, I want you to remember this now. I want you to remember you heard this here. 2 years from now, I am telling you, Cade Povich will be a quality starting pitcher. And lastly, Trevor Rogers. He is coming back down to earth. He is not going to pitch to a 1.6 ERA. Okay, ever again in his life. I'm putting myself way out there, but this doesn't bother me at all. But what does coming back down to earth mean? If he's 3.2, if he gives up almost 2 more runs a game, it was worth Kyle Stowers. It was worth it. I didn't like the trade. I'm going to be honest with you. I was a Kyle Stowers fan. I knew. I said this. I said it. If he plays every day, he's going to be an all-star, and he was. So I didn't like the trade, but I will say that if he is a 3.2 guy, and that's him coming down to earth, that's perfect. Take it. Most of these guys are 4.6. You get a 3. I mean, think about this. Think about this. 4.8 ERA. Dylan Cease, 7 years, $210 million. Now he struck out everybody, 210, 225 batters, but $210 million, and he got the 7-year deal. So again, at the end of the day, if Trevor Rogers is a 3+ guy, that's close enough for me. Close enough for me.
Yeah, I mean, and I hear you on that. I mean, I don't think anybody ever foresaw Trevor doing what he did last season. I know for a fact I didn't. I mean, you look when they first acquired him at the deadline 2 years ago, it was like, it was a disaster. They had to send him back down to the AAA to kind of refine some of his mechanics, and he came up, last year and really impressed, I think, everybody in baseball. I don't think anybody could have guessed that we would get that performance out of him. And I do think, as I mentioned, he's going to take a step back. But to your point, I think a step back is still pretty darn good. And you pencil him as your number 2, and you've got right now Kyle Bradish, who I am very high on Kyle Bradish. I think he is a guy that we forget was in the Cy Young race 2 years ago before he got hurt, right? And then, they tried to kind of do some of the conservative treatment with that elbow, the PRP injections. And I remember the Phillies series, he threw that pitch in the fifth inning and it was like you knew he was done. And, losing a guy like that, there's not many teams that are going to be able to recover from. Maybe if you're the Dodgers, you go out and trade for one of those guys or sign one of them. But everybody else, you lose your guy, it's hard to recover from. And then getting back to the Peralta, potential trade. If you look at the Brewers, I mean, we forget they were by wins, they were the best team at baseball. And we
Oh,
can kind of
yeah.
talk about
Were they ever?
We could talk about their roster not having a lot of big names, a lot of quote unquote superstars, but Peralta was their guy, was their ace. So to your point, if they are going to make a move to trade him, they're going to be wanting a king's ransom for him. So I definitely foresee the Orioles having to give up in a potential trade a Cade Povich, a Kobe Mayo, plus some of their higher end prospects that are close to being in the big leagues, because the Brewers are not going to be rebuilding. They're going to probably phrase it as reloading. Peralta's a free agent. He's probably going to get big time money. They're a small market team. And so for them, it's like you get something for him now as opposed to having another year from him and then he leaves in free agency. So my concern with Peralta is he's also third. He's a little bit older than some of those other guys that we talked about. Valdez, I know, is not a young kid by any means. So age and everything, I think, plays a role. But I'm honestly tired of the Orioles, worried about winning AAA championships and these prospects that we hear about all the time. To me, you're in a window now with the free agents that you brought in, with the core that you have now. To me, you got to go in. You got to go all in this year. You can't worry about 5, 6, 7, 8 years from now what a prospect can or can't be. To me,
This is the season right now. That's right.
Absolutely.
Well, Matt Faulkner, probably not something that is going to happen today, or maybe it will. We got about 70 days left. Now, as always, O's fans, we do greatly appreciate you taking some time to hang out with us. Please like, share, subscribe, click the notification bell for all the latest episodes of Joe Rossano's Orioles Report with Matt Faulkner and with Michael Sullivan. As always, God bless you. For Matt Faulkner, I'm Joe Rossano. We'll see you next time.